Hey heroes, welcome back. Matt and Ez here, Extended Edition, and this is Extended Edition on Part 4 of The Shadow Rising. We just finished talking about chapters 21 through 27, and a little bit different this time. The Aiel, Perrin chapter is interesting, and we were going to extend that. We are going to extend it a little bit, but I thought before we did that, let's just talk about what we thought is cool in these most recent chapters, and so Matt understands kind of where I'm coming from. I think I'll start this, and then I want his just response to these chapters. What I think is neat is you've laid a foundation for the Aiel this whole time. You have been hinting at them. Rand looks like an Aiel, but yet he doesn't. If there's anybody who's as far away from the Aiel as you possibly could get, it's Rand. You know what I mean? He actually is Aiel. Like he has to be. I mean, like he looks like it, right? At this point, like he's been told that he's Aiel, all this stuff. And he is wearing a sword. He wears different clothes. He's not like anywhere close to who they are now as a people. Just looks so different. But yet he looks just like them. And the same thing happens in the vision, right? The people he sees at the beginning look so different from the people you see at the end versus the beginning. Like they just look so different in that vision. And then I think it's just interesting that Rand himself shows up and is completely underneath all the clothes and the garb, looks just like the Aiel, but outwardly and who he is and everything is so different. So, the idea is he's going to break them and take them back to... He's gonna break them. He's gonna make them ready for what he needs them there in the last battle or whatever. We don't really know yet, but I just think that's really interesting. That I don't know what you call that with the devices that Robert Jordan's using there, but it just is really neat in the mind to think about how that parallels or juxtaposition, whatever it is, it's neat. Any thoughts on that? I mean, just that the whole. I'm just still kind of stuck. Whenever I come to this Rhuidean, the prophecies, the visions, I just get kind of like blown away by his foresight and like his writing style and this interesting group of people that he has in this series.
Yeah, I mean, the Aiel is we've been slowly meeting them since the end of last book. The Dragon Reborn, and he's expanding his world. It's getting bigger. I mean, it's getting bigger, and the Aiel are different in that. Well, one, they're kind of on the edge of the world. Like when I think about Randland, as we call it, it's like, well, the Shan-Chan, they're over there, they're doing their thing, but the Aiel are kind of different because when I look at a map, I'm like, my God, look how huge the Aiel Waste is, and the Aiel Waste is almost as big as Randland. And then you get over to like Shara and stuff like that's going on over there. Yeah. And so that in itself is really interesting. And just to think in that it almost feels like, I said this in the episode, how they almost have they almost have like their own history, their own story. I mean, they it's like the dragon they call like he who comes with the dawn, right? And so it's different. So it's a different way, it's a different structure, but they get kind of to the same place. They haven't been as tainted, I guess, by the Aes Sedai, but then we learn in the chapters that they broke off from the Aes Sedai kind of almost originally, you go way back. And that they were kind of broke off from them, right?
Yeah,
because originally with Lanfear, and then or they're with Lanfear. She was an Aes Sedai, and as we get sort of their history, and so again, so it's interesting and it's cool, and Rand is an Aiel, and so why does he need to be an Aiel? Right, that's a question I have, that we have that's not answered yet. But I think that'll be an answer. That'll be something cool to learn as we go forward. So I mean, there's obviously a reason that Rand is the Dragon Reborn and he is an Aiel. So
yeah, Well, yeah, actually, you bring up something really interesting. It just made me think of something else. So when you're comparing those two lands, the Aiel Waste and Randland, or the Wetlands, Greenlands, whatever you want to call it, where you've got Caemlyn, Kyrian, you've got all of the, just all the different nations, Tyr, Amadicia, the whole thing. They all do kind of have, it's like they've gotten more sophisticated. They've had their own conflicts. Things have changed there. The nations have changed. Like, they once were called this, now they're this. The boundaries have changed. Kings and queens have come and gone, and Arthur Hawkwing, the whole thing. But the Aiel, being where they are and being kind of in that terrain and geographically separated by the spine of the world, and that range keeps them kind of preserved a little bit. Like, their memories are preserved, their understanding of things, like, it's preserved. There's less that's lost, I guess. Like, the Aes Sedai are that for, Randland. I mean, they have all of the, the text and memory and stuff like that. It's kept kind of there, archives and whatnot. But, like, it's just interesting that in stories, when you come across a group of people who seem connected to the old way, and they remember a time long gone, and they can recall and bring up ancient history and lore. And that's where we went to these people to get that. And that's what I think is, like, really kind of cool, because you're like, who are these people? You know what I mean? Like, how do they still, like, they kind of feel like they're not too far removed from all of this breaking of the world and this age of legends. Like, the memory vein is still there. Whereas, like, it's harder to see because it's kept by all nations in a tower with the Aes Sedai on the other side, and they know quite a bit and they study it. But because of politics and Deus Damar and everything that's happening, like, they're less caught up with that. They're not looking forward to the end of time and to the return of this dragon, the dragon being reborn. Like, they've heard of it and they're told of it. It is still around, like the dragons and false dragons. It's all there, but it seems like the Aiel people are way more prepped and prepared for a he who comes with the dawn. And then, like you said, I mean, the sea folk are also that's where Nynaeve and Elaine are right now. They have the, oh gosh, is he Coramor, right? Is that what it is for them?
I'll
totally forget what he's called. Yeah,
see.
For them. But anyways, it's like, that's what they have their own prophecy, right, where in which they're thinking like, okay, who is this? There's someone who is going to unite us, that they're going to be ready to, like, get behind or whatever. So, yeah, it's interesting. And then, like you said, you've got Shara way over there to the far east. And, yes. And so, what's that? We've already the Shan-Chen aren't even on the map. They're coming across the Great Sea and raiding and showing up here on the land, and trying to there's some great return or something happening there. So anyways, I don't know. But yeah, it's just it's interesting to see. I love the reward. I always talk about the series has great reward, where in which if you're paying attention to the smaller details and these groups of people and the prophecies of the dragon, and it's a lot to kind of keep in mind and, like, piece together as you move forward. It's why I'm okay with Robert Jordan repeating stuff and reminding us of what happened when and making those connections for us, because, like, he mentioned it in book 1 and we're like, what is this all about? Like, we're going to get reminded about the Aiel War and what was the purpose of it was, and how all of the, how Kyrian used to be able to cross the Aiel Waste and they can't anymore, and all that kind of stuff. He'll remind us of all of that, even though he has hinted at it and kind of already told us some of it. But yeah, it's just a cool device, cool group of people. I still do not, and I know your brother Jeremy probably knows a crap ton more about this than I do. Like, all their customs, I mean, all of their different, like, we're not there yet, but we're about to go into a batch of chapters where obviously we're with these people. So the longer we're with them, we're going to learn more about them. And it's very interesting how we learn about them. And sometimes, to me, I'm just like, it's a crash course that is just overwhelming for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love it. I love to try
absolutely.
To, learn more about them. So yeah. Anyways. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Anything else from this batch of chapters? Like, Matt,
Yeah, I talked about it in the chapter. I just liked that the little scene with the coin, right? Was it was it his luck? Was it Rand's channeling? What's ultimately the deal there? And to try to see these kind of competing powers. Was it the luck actually saving Matt? So just kind of that is kind of cool.
Yeah, and yeah, that is neat just to sort of see what the Taviran offer, how they help Rand in his journey, and what is their purpose? What does the wheel need them for? Why are they kind of spun out? Which I think is neat. I was trying to find it real quick here. So where he goes, here it is. So you have the Eelfinn, right? Did they go into, and I don't remember in this batch of chapters we just read, did they go into, because all we read was kind of a summary there. Do you remember if they went in and did they go over that whole experience with him, when he went in the door? And when they go into Rhuidean, remember he comes out and there's like a rope wrapped around his neck and he's basically, dead or whatever. Do you remember that? I can't remember.
But it was a while ago that I read these chapters, so it's possible that I just misremembering.
Okay, yeah, let me see here. The elf. Okay, unless stated otherwise. Here we go. So this is Shadow Rising, chapter 24. This is the group that he goes in and kind of encounters, right? So they're the Eelfinn. They are a race of beings who combine with human appearance with fox-like characteristics. Mm-hmm. They grant 3 wishes to anyone who visits them, although they want something in return, even if they do not ask outright. If no price is negotiated, the Eelfinn will choose one, which is death in most cases. Okay? Let's see. Like the Eelfinn, there's so the difference here is like an A and an E. They're very similar. You had the snake-like and the fox-like individuals. So, I guess it's like the Redstone Door, Twisted Door, that group of people that he went and experienced, they rummage through the experiences of those who enter their realm. Matt can feel them doing it, which makes his skin crawl. And we got through chapter, 27 today? Is that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to go any further than that. That's good enough. What else happens here? Yeah, the realm of the Eelfinn is made up entirely of straight lines, and the air has, quote, the smell of a wild animal's lair. Its true location is unknown, though there are 2 ways to reach it. And yeah, all we know of right now is a redstone door frame, Tarmon Gai'don in Rhuidean. So there we go. Interesting. Request and wishes. Let me see here. This was interesting. Requesting wishes. When using the Tarmon Gai'don, one steps through a sheet of brilliant white light and a roaring, all the sounds of the world gathered at once. Upon entering the new surroundings, one is greeted by a guide who will ask, quote, do you abide by the treaties and agreements? Do you carry iron or instruments of music or devices for making light? We don't actually know what happened. Like they don't, Matt, he's like, no, he doesn't. Mm-hmm. We don't know what happens if you do. Do they kick you out, or did you violate the treaty? Do they do they kill you on the spot? I don't know. Thankfully, none of our characters are actually carrying iron, instruments of music, or devices for making light. So if you're not carrying those things, then you're going to proceed where there's this chamber, and they're on these pedestals, right? And let's see. Then basically they'll say, here's a quote from the text, which is, speak by the ancient treaty. Here is an agreement made. What is your need? Speak. A woman will address you. So this is what he's facing. It's very similar to what he faces in Tyr. So this is why I was asking, do you remember if this kind of came up in that chapter? If this part again, I guess where he was, because if not, then this is something that
let's go back over it.
Yeah, because let me just, because it could be, chapter 26. Okay. Yeah, so all right, we're in there, and then This is where he gets the fox head medallion, right? He gets that. Yeah. Okay. So all right, so we're in here. It's just kind of a cool moment where, Matt is again raging because he doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand the mechanisms that are being used, and he wants answers to his questions, and they're going to give him what is needed. They will say nothing until you state your wishes, and even then they will only say done after each request. It is not known if they talk more when you set terms before them making agreements, what you should do, or else the Eelfinn decide on a price. They say as much to Matt. Quote, yet fool not to first agree on price. We will set the price. So he didn't negotiate a price with them. Once you use your 3 wishes, whether having agreed on a price or not, their last words will be, what was asked will be given. The price will be paid. That's what they say to him. So he didn't know to even negotiate a price. That's why at the end of all of this, like, death is essentially what he's hung there. And we're going to come back to that. That's a batch. We haven't got to that part yet. We've not experienced that. So, yeah. And he basically has stated what he needs, and it's given. They're rummaging through his experiences, and then he's granted these, wishes. So, like, for example, he says, well, I want to be free of the Aes Sedai and the power. And so what's given to him is a fox head medallion.
Yeah. Right. That look like the fox-like creatures.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just go click on this real quick. So, yes. Okay. So it was in chapter 26. This is why we do the extended edition. So the dedicated, you can see this is where it kind of mixed in here. What I went through was all of Rand's points of view, the visions and things. At the very end
is when Rand and Matt are back together.
Yeah, back together. And I don't know though if they go over. No, they just rip it open.
That's when he and Matt. That's when they hit a floor, right? They with a thud and the pole that Matt had been suspended from. It clatters to the ground. It's not just a pole, but it was an odd spear. All this stuff. Rand lets the power go and rips the rope away from Matt's neck. Then he rips open his shirt, and that's where he sees the medallion. Yeah, that's right. And then he has to save Matt because he thinks Matt's dead.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So here it was. So where this actually goes down, exactly. That's where we see what he gains from being there. So back in chapter 24 in Rhuidean, when Rand, because we follow Rand, he goes through the Tir'an. He goes through
and Matt stays.
Tir'an Grial. Yeah. Rand enters the arches after they agree. Matt will stay behind. Matt walks around and finds another strangely twisted door frame. Thinking he will be able to get answers, he steps through. In the doorway, he finds he does not find the snake people like before, but the fox-like creatures. He enters a room. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't reading all of this about these individuals before we had actually experienced it. But I was like, no, I know he gets the fox head medallion. So he gets these things, and it's based upon what he says what he needs. What I want is to be free from the Aes Sedai, so they give him the fox head medallion. And then he says, and I want to be away from you and back to Rhuidean if you will not answer me. The Eelfinn let him go back to Rhuidean, but because Matt does not specify how he wants to be back, he is hanged from Avon Desora. So from the Avon Desora tree. Quote, he said he wanted to leave and failed to stay alive, so they took him outside and hanged him. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, that's just kind of an interesting batch there. We didn't really cover that, and I think it's
there's so much happening around it, and the majority of that is Rand's vision, and seeing all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's some of the reason we've been doing shorter blocks where we'd normally do 10 chapter blocks, but some of the chapters in this book are like an hour long, and so it's like, all right, well, we're gonna have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, that's that. Yeah, this one's actually a little bit shorter on what happens when he's in there. It's just they get right to the point. It's not as long as what happens in Tyr, but still they're different. And yeah, we can cover it more later though. It's just interesting that They're similar but yet different, and what do you get from it? They're trying to get something from you. You have to negotiate a price. He didn't do that, and that's what kind of cost him. Because I think if you were just reading that and you came across and you're like, what happened to Matt? You know what I mean? Like, why did this happen to him? It doesn't make any sense. That world and these individuals have rules, and they're ancient. You know, did they understand them better in the Age of Legends? It seems like they did, because they had an ancient agreement, you know, that you couldn't bring in iron, you know, or devices that make light or whatever. And, you know, we're kind of stumbling into this world, not even knowing what the rules are. That's why it's super dangerous. Kind of like Tel'aran'rhiod, right? In the dream world, when you go there, you don't know what all can and can't be done. That's why the wise ones are warning Egwene that she's just a child in there and she can be killed easily by, you know, getting caught in someone's dream or coming across someone like them. Can easily be taken out. So, yeah. All right. So that's a couple things.
Well, I guess maybe a spoiler, but I was, do we ever come back to this?
I guess that would be spoiler. That would be spoiler. Yeah. I mean, but I will just say that it's mystery. It's still. I will say that it's right now we're left kind of like, what was this world? What is this place? Who are these people? Why? How does it all work? You know, and why do we get what we get from them, or why were these consequences issued to Matt? You know, so yeah. And I think in the next batch of chapters, we might learn a little bit more about this too. So yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But yeah, okay. And then lastly, the thing we didn't get into too much again, we'll kind of extend a little bit, is Fael, right? And just Fael's request to Loyal and them, you know, wanting to go, or her basically.
Right. This is, within the ways.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And it's interesting to remember that you have Bane and Chiad, and you have Gaul there as well, right? So that you actually have some Aes Sedai, you have some Aiel that stayed there with them, and they're going to kind of accompany them. And that's an interesting trio as well to kind of follow. I think that a lot of the fandom really enjoy following Bane and Chiad and Gaul, and, you know, having their talks. Bane and Chiad talking with Fael, and then Gaul talking with Perrin, and them trying to understand, you know, women and men and the whole back and forth between. There's some comedy in there, but there's some weird, like the Aiel have a weird sense of humor too that is hard to kind of pick up on. But yeah, they almost like seeing Fael boss Perrin around and like make him follow her, as if she's got, like, you know, he's not going to tell her what to do and like push her out of the way, even though he's trying to protect her. So it's weird. It's a really interesting thing, because we the reader know what Perrin's trying to do. We know what Fael doesn't know, but we also know that, like, we also kind of want Fael to stay with him. We don't want him just to go off and give himself up, because he's, you know, super important. So we're hopeful too that Fael will be able to convince him otherwise, or at least keep him safe, and that these Aiel are great fighters. Maybe they can do something. So yeah, it's all of that that's really interesting, is because we're about to go on an arc with these characters, and get all the way to the Two Rivers and kind of figure out what's going on back there with those white cloaks. So yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you for everyone who does support us here on Patreon. Again, as we always say, it's a huge help to the show. It's a new year, 2021. And we are excited to keep hammering out content, guys. We're going to be doing some more Zoom Hangouts for those of you guys who are in that tier. We've done some of those with some of our friends over on Bent the Knee, and some Hyperspace people have joined us as well. And so certainly looking forward to that. And who knows? At this point, it's beginning of January 2021, as this time next year, show could be out.
Yeah.
But of course, this time last year, as January 2020, we were sitting there saying, man, think of all the things we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
They can't even get the last episode finished. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we do have a show, and we have at least a lot more to kind of talk about in regards to it. And hopefully we're able to come back and do some more stuff with our patrons and go back and, now that Matt has read through a lot of this too, I think it'd be kind of cool to have folks talk to Matt and to I about, some of the earlier books and where we're at before. And anybody who's read on ahead will see just how difficult it is to not spoil something.
To not spoil stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. As your brother,
I'm
Nick
sure
found
it is.
out.
Well, he spoils stuff every 2 seconds. He's just like, whoa, well, I'm like, Nick, come on now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, friends, for stopping by and listening to the extended edition. Leave some comments down below if you would like. And again, you can always leave your Twitter handle, and we'll throw that out there on the show or put that in the description of the show as well, just to kind of, have folks kind of connect and build some community and keep talking to each other. You can follow us on Twitter at The Horn of Valir. And you can follow me at Wampra_2M and Matt at Super Gains Bros. Follow us on Twitter there. We'll be tweeting about all sorts of things. We're covering all sorts of stuff. But thanks again. Really appreciate it. And as always, the grave is no bar to our call.